Well, hello, Gracepoint Church family. I'm going to be presenting to you a weekly church vlog. And so I'll be doing this to you about midweek. You'll receive it, so watch for it in your inbox. And I'll be addressing this question of Gracepoint Church reopening. Now, the building, of course, has been closed, but the church has not been closed. The church never shut down, even in the midst of this pandemic. And so I just want to say thank you, church family, for the beautiful expressions of the church you have been these last 11 weeks. I mean it very sincerely that it has touched my heart on just how you have given generously. Thank you for that. How you have served faithfully. You've stepped up, and from the simple tasks of delivering chalk to meeting the needs of someone to delivering groceries or gift card, there's been so many beautiful expressions of the church happening. In fact, Pastor Steve and I were talking yesterday around how maybe certain metrics of discipleship have actually increased the last couple months. I know it's been awkward and difficult in terms of doing D group on Zoom. But like I said, there's been so many beautiful expressions of the church that have been happening. So thank you for that. But the reality is the building has been shuttered. We know that. And we as a staff have been talking through it, as LT been talking through it. And what does it mean now in this next phase? And one of the metaphors we've used is, and I got it from Ed Stetzer from an article that he wrote, is, and I used to be a chess player when I was a teenager, played some competitive chess, but that's another story for another time. But he did the metaphor of like a chess game where you've lost your queen. That, in a sense, what it feels like now in this new era. That the queen, if you're not a chess player, is in a sense a very powerful chess piece that, other than the king, if you lose a king, you lose the game. But the queen can travel anywhere, as many squares as she wants to go, diagonally, horizontally, vertically, etc. And suddenly that's been taken out. And so what does it mean for us as a church now, where it feels like, okay, our Sunday morning gathering has gone by the wayside at the moment. So how are we going to move forward? You know, disruptions like this, they don't catch God by surprise. And historically, we look back at the church, and again, she has risen up in the midst of disruptions. And one I thought of this morning to share with you guys is in Acts chapter 8, where we read there that on that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Then a couple verses later, it says, those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. So in Acts chapter 1, Jesus said, you'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. But for the first 7 chapters, we see the church stayed close to Jerusalem. And then this persecution happens, and then they spread out, as I read there, to Judea and Samaria and beyond. And so people like Philip, in the next part of Acts chapter 8, he took the message to Samaria. And so in the midst of that disruption, the church responded. And the same thing now, in our day and age. We've got to respond with new rhythms, new routines in the midst of this disruption. And I really feel in this season that God has something for us. And it's really got to be a season that we lean into God, that we pray with a greater earnestness, that we desire His will more than ever. We've always said that we want to be a community that hears God's voice and obeys what He calls us to do. And really that's got to happen in this season. And so the question that so many of you are wondering about is, when will we be able to gather again for corporate worship? Now, we take our direction, of course, from the Bible, and we also take our direction from science, because all truth is God's truth. And so we look to our top doctor here in the province of British Columbia, and we listen to Dr. Bonnie Henry's updates, And so at the moment, and of course this can change from day to day, as we talked about this morning at the staff gathering, that, they can be dialed up, dialed down, with a daily announcement. But at the moment, it's a 50-person limit that we have. And that presents a challenge to us, of course, with a congregation of 400 plus persons that are used to gathering on Sunday mornings. And so we want to take our direction from, like I said, science, and then also from the Bible. Now, we as a staff and as an LT have talked about a 3-phase plan to reopening. And so it's going to begin the first phase next week, June the 1st, when all the staff come back here. And so we have put some protocols and procedures in place, and Tracy has been working hard on that. And in fact, today she's on a conference call with our denomination regarding HR issues. We want to keep our staff safe, of course, And so that will happen June 1st. We will gather again. So it'll mean, again, a change of rhythms and routines. I'm now in my office here, and we're used to having staff gatherings here, and that can't happen now because we can't properly social distance in here. And so we'll move the meetings to the foyer, and, we'll have some other procedures in place. And so that'll happen on June 1st, next week. Then we're going to do a deep cleaning on our building in the month of June. We've been getting quotes for that. And so when the time comes for you to re-enter the building, that again, you can feel that this place is safe for you and your family as you come in. And so we take our direction from like I said, to Dr. Henry, but we also, and this may be a surprise for some of you, is take our direction from our denomination, because we actually don't own this building. This building, Gracepoint Church building, is owned by the Mennonite Brethren denomination. And so later this week, I will present the 3-phase plan to our denominational leaders, and to get a response from them. And again, they may have some parameters or some guidelines for us. And so, stay tuned, and we'll continue to inform you as we move along on this. Now, some of you have asked the question around, what about outdoor gatherings? Could we gather in a field somewhere, all 400 plus of us, if we're physically distant and that sort of thing? And the answer is no. If it's a Gracepoint gathering, we're again limited by the 50-person restriction that the government has put on us. Some of you have asked too, what about our parking lot? Could we do an outdoor service there and have, all hundreds of us there? And again, the restriction is that we can't do that. We can't all gather. I've even thought, well, what about if we had certain people inside and outside and downstairs, and somewhere we could gather all together, because we love to gather. But again, we've got to abide by the restrictions as they are at the moment. Although, like I said, that is something that's changing, and hopefully that number will be raised in the near future. And so, we are restricted by those things. But in the midst of all of this, I want to remind you that God is in control. He is sovereign. He's not fretting up there in heaven. He sees what is happening. And like I alluded to earlier, that He has something for us. And I'm trying to press into that, and I would encourage you to press into that also. God, what are you saying to us in this season? What are you doing in our individual lives? What are you doing collectively in our church community? And to share some of those stories with one another, what we're hearing from the Lord. Because like I said on Sunday, that God never wastes a hurt. And the same thing, in a sense, He's not going to waste this pandemic. In the sense, He has something for us, and we don't want to miss that. So we're going to be doing these weekly updates to you. And if you've got any questions, please send them my way, rick@gracepoint.ca, and I'll either address them here via the video or directly to you. And we're going to continue to move forward in terms of what reopening looks like, and we're going to continue to be the church And I look forward to hearing all sorts of expressions of what that looks like, whether intentional or organic gatherings, whether smaller gatherings or gatherings up to 50 people. And you will hear about those as these weeks move along. And let's continue to be in dialogue together around this. And most of all, let's continue to listen for God's voice and follow what He's calling us to do in these days. We'll talk to you again next week.